It was 11:51 p.m. when my phone lit up. A text from my mother-in-law, Brenda, glowed on the screen, Haley. We've all discussed it. And Cameron agrees. Your art career is an embarrassment to his new position at the firm. He is filing for divorce. We are proceeding with Kira. Seconds later, another one pinged. This time from my husband, Cameron. His was shorter. It's for the best. Don't contact us. We're in Aspen. I didn't cry. I didn't text back. I didn't even feel that familiar. Hot sting of panic. This time, the anger wasn't loud. It was clinical. It was quiet. I just opened my laptop. My laptop. The one I bought with my own money. They wanted to cut me out. Fine. Let's see how the family image holds up without its silent investor. I logged into my bank account. The one Cameron rarely looked at. The one my royalty checks dropped into. First, Brenda's monthly image consulting fee, my private little name for the $1,500 I sent her for shopping. The transfer was scheduled for the first of the month. I clicked cancel. Second, the $2,000 recurring payment for my sister-in-law, Maya's specialized agoraphobia therapy sessions. Sessions that had been going on for 3 years with zero improvement. Cancelled. Third, Cameron's supplemental credit card. The one he used for client dinners and networking drinks in Aspen, the one I paid off every single month. I navigated to the card's dashboard. Lock card. A small, satisfying click. And finally, the shared access to my graphic novel's royalty account. The account he dipped into whenever he needed a little bonus. I clicked revoke access. By 12:03 a.m., I was done. 12 minutes. That's all it took to dismantle the entire financial infrastructure of their lives. You see, I'm Haley. And for 3 years, I've been this family's dirty little secret. I wasn't just the embarrassing wife with a cute little art hobby. I was the successful one. My graphic novel series, the one they all dismissed, had been optioned by a major studio. I was the one paying for the polished. Upper middle class life, my husband Cameron pretended was all his. I was the invisible investor in the family of Cameron. And I had just called in my loan. I met Cameron when he was a struggling intern. And I was just getting my first royalty check. He was charming. And he loved that I was an artist. He called my work brilliant. But as his star began to rise at the finance firm, a rise funded almost entirely by my success, brilliant became quaint, ambitious became a cute little hobby. His mother, Brenda, a woman who measured the world in designer labels and zip codes, never hid hair disdain. She wanted him to marry his ex. Kira, a woman in corporate law. Someone suitable. An artist, she'd say at family dinners. How lovely. As if I were a piece of decorative pottery. I tried. God. Did I try? I put my own career on the back burner to host his client dinners. I learned to cook the bland, expensive food she liked. I remember bringing a $200 bottle of wine to their house. Something I'd researched for days. Brenda picked it up, sniffed the cork, and said, I suppose this will be fine for cooking. And I just took it. I smiled. I said, of course. Brenda. Looking back, I know what you're thinking. Haley, why did you put up with it? Why did you let them treat you like that? It's a fair question. But you have to understand, endurance like that, it isn't weakness. It's a psychological trap. When constant criticism and gaslighting are your daily routine, you learn to absorb it. You're not a person anymore. You're a shock absorber. They train you to believe that fighting back is pointless. that the path of least resistance is the only way to survive. It's called learned helplessness. My endurance wasn't a character flaw. It was a symptom of their abuse. I wasn't weak. I was conditioned. This wasn't a marriage, it was a balance sheet where I was the only one making deposits. And that 11:51 p.m. text, it wasn't just a betrayal, it was the auditor showing up. It was the moment I finally saw the numbers in bright, flashing red. I slept for about 4 hours. I woke up not to an alarm, but to the frantic buzzing of my phone on the nightstand. It was 9:15 a.m. The screen showed Brenda. I watched it ring. And ring. Then it stopped. A second later, a voicemail notification popped up. I didn't listen to it. Then, a rapid series of texts. All from Brenda. The therapist's office just called. Maya's payment was declined. What did you do, Haley? Answer your phone. You are putting Maya's health at risk. Answer me. I stared at the messages. Not a single "Are you okay?" Not one. Maybe we should talk. Just pure, undiluted rage that the money had stopped. Then, a new text. This time from Cameron. He was still in Aspen. Haley, this is incredibly petty. You're putting Maya's health at risk. Turn the card back on. Kira agrees this is childish. My breath caught. Kira agrees. He was discussing his family's finances. My finances? With the woman he'd left me for. He was using her as a weapon. As a partner in scolding me. It was in that moment I realized the truth. They weren't sorry for kicking me out. They weren't horrified by their own cruelty. They were just shocked that the ATM had suddenly grown a spine and refused to dispense cash. My compassion. My endurance. It had just been a luxury they'd overdrafted for years. This wasn't a family breakdown. It was a service interruption. I didn't reply to a single text. I just went and made coffee. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a Facebook notification. A friend had tagged me in a post. It was from Brenda. So sad when a family member becomes unstable and forgets who raised them. She wrote, "To the world. To her 250 friends. All we can do is pray for them and their confused state of mind." She was painting me as the ungrateful one. The unstable one. I took a sip of my coffee. It was hot. And it was black. I looked at her post. At the sympathetic comments already rolling in from her friends. That, right there, was the final straw. This was no longer a private matter. She had made it public. And I knew exactly what to do. That Facebook post. That was the final straw. Brenda's attempt to paint me as unstable and confused wasn't just an insult, it was a tactical error. She had just given me the moral justification to escalate. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was a public attack on my character. And I was going to treat it as such. I didn't block her. I didn't comment. I just screenshotted the post and all the sympathetic replies. Then I called Julia. Julia and I had been in art history classes together. But while I went on to draw superheroes, she went on to become one of the most ruthless divorce attorneys in Cleveland. She was precise. She was cold. And she hated bullies. I forwarded her everything. The 11:51 p.m. texts. The bank statements. Highlighted. Showing 3 years of payments to Brenda and the therapist. Brenda's unhinged voicemails from that morning. Cameron's text from Aspen. The one where Kira agrees. And finally, the screenshot of the Facebook post. She was silent on the phone for a long time. I could practically hear her smiling. "Oh, Haley?" she said. And her voice was crisp and sharp, like glass breaking. We are going to destroy them. This isn't just a divorce. This is a recovery operation. This was where the language changed. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about accounting. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. Julia gave me the new vocabulary. It wasn't Brenda's allowance. It was unjust enrichment. It wasn't helping with Maya's therapy. It was financial misrepresentation. She didn't just draft a divorce filing. She drafted a formal notice of asset freeze and an immediate motion to demand repayment for all non-marital funds, my personal funds, premarital royalty money that had been spent on Cameron's family, every $1,500 consulting fee, every $2,000 treatment, every Aspen expense on that supplemental card. This wasn't revenge. It was an audit. And I was finally, after 3 long years, sending them the bill. Julia called me back that afternoon. "Okay," she said, her voice all business. "The asset freeze is in motion. And the repayment demand is drafted. But Haley, they're going to fight this. They'll claim the money was a gift. We need leverage. We need something that proves their bad faith. I can hire a private investigator in Aspen. Get photos of Cameron and Kira. It'll be messy. But it's leverage." I thought about it for a second. Photos of them in Aspen, that would sting. Yes, but it was also what they expected. It was an emotional play. I wasn't emotional anymore. I was clinical. "Forget Aspen," I said. Julia was quiet. "What? Forget Aspen for a second." "Julia, that's just infidelity. It's messy. Like you said, I have a different idea. I want to know about Maya. The sister, the one with agoraphobia. That's the one," I said. "For 3 years, I've been told Maya cannot leave the house. Not for a walk. Not to get the mail. She's a prisoner. Supposedly, she lives in her room with a weighted blanket and noise-canceling headphones, and my $2,000 a month pays for a specialized in-home therapist who's the only one who can treat her." Julia caught on instantly. "You think she's faking?" I said, "that $2,000 a month is a very expensive allowance. I want to know what that therapy money is really paying for. I want to know if she's really a prisoner in that house." Julia's voice was sharp with excitement. "Haley, that's not just leverage. If you're right, that's wire fraud." She hired a local PI in Cleveland, not to go to Aspen, to watch the house. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days. 2 days of silence. Of me just sketching. The anger now, a cold, clean line on the page. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. The PI. "You need to see this." It was a video file. I pressed play. It was the front of the Cleveland house. The front door opened, and out walked Maya. She wasn't wearing a weighted blanket. She was wearing designer sunglasses, a leather jacket, and jeans. She looked perfectly fine, smiling as she checked her phone. Then she walked down the driveway, past the mailbox she supposedly couldn't even walk to, and got into a bright red convertible. The top was already down. She started the engine. The sound loud in the quiet suburban street. And then she sped off, her hair blowing in the wind. I watched the video. Once. Twice. A third time. There it was. The kill shot. This wasn't just a family of liars and cheaters. This was a conspiracy to defraud. My mind started doing the math. $2,000 a month. For 36 months. That was $72,000. $72,000 in cash I had handed over to fund a lie. All while they called me the embarrassment. I forwarded the video to Julia. Her reply came back in less than 60 seconds. Got it. They're done. Book a flight to Aspen. Haley, it's time to show them the receipt. I flew to Aspen that night. I didn't pack a suitcase. I just brought my phone and the carry-on bag Julia had prepared with all the legal documents. I walked into the 5-star resort. The kind of place with roaring fireplaces and fur blankets, the air smelling like pine and old money. I asked the concierge which restaurant. Mr. Cameron had a reservation at www. They told me. I walked in, and there they were, in the warmest, most expensive corner of the restaurant. Bathed in soft light, sat Cameron, Brenda, and Kira. They were laughing. A bottle of champagne sat on the table. They were toasting, celebrating their new, improved family, celebrating the successful ejection of the embarrassment. I walked right up to the table. The clicking of my heels on the stone floor made Cameron look up. His face went white. The champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. Brenda's smile froze and cracked. Enjoying the trip, I asked. My voice was calm. It didn't even waver. Brenda hissed. What are you doing here? You weren't invited. I know. I said, but I paid for it. This entire trip. The suite. This very expensive champagne. It all came from my last royalty advance. So, in a way, I'm the host. Cameron started to stand up, knocking his chair back. Haley, let's not do this here. Let's talk about this. Talk about what? Cameron, I said, pulling out my phone. Should we talk about this? I pressed play. I held the phone up. Not for them, but for the tables next to us. The video of Maya, in hair designer sunglasses, getting into that red convertible and speeding away. The audio of the engine was loud in the quiet restaurant. Brenda's wine glass shattered on the floor. That's... She stammered. That's fraud. Brenda. I said. My voice clear and cold. That's 3 years of wire fraud. $2,000 a month. $72,000. To be exact, I wonder how the IRS will feel about that therapy income. Kira, the suitable lawyer, looked horrified. She knew exactly what that meant. Cameron put his hands on the table. Haley, please. You don't understand. Oh, I understand everything. I said. I pulled the printed PI photos from my bag and dropped them on the table, right on top of Kira's plate. Photos of them on this trip. I understand that you used my money to bring your mistress on vacation. I understand that Brenda engineered this whole thing. And I understand that you're both about to be served. And that's when it happened. The power flip. Brenda, the woman of image, grabbed my arm. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. Please. Haley, don't. You'll ruin us. Think of Maya. Cameron actually fell to his knees, right there on the restaurant floor. Haley, I'm begging you. I'll lose my job. We can work this out. The entire restaurant was silent, staring. This was the embarrassment they were so afraid of. And they had brought it on themselves. I just looked down at him. It's too late for that. Cameron. I walked away. The divorce wasn't a negotiation. It was a slaughter. Faced with a civil suit for fraud and evidence of conspiracy, Brenda and Maya settled instantly, signing over their share of the family assets. Cameron, faced with the same evidence, was fired from his firm for ethics violations before he could even be served. I got the house. I got $250,000 in alimony. And Julia, in a move of pure genius, got a separate, private settlement from Kira for $75,000 for emotional distress. In exchange for not naming her in the public filing, 6 months later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there they were, Cameron and Brenda. They looked awful, gaunt, broke. Their expensive clothes looked wrong on them, like costumes they couldn't afford anymore. "Haley," Brenda said, and her voice was a dry croak. "Please. We have nothing. We're begging you. Just a little. For Maya." I stood there, looking at these two people who had called me an embarrassment, who had plotted to throw me away like trash. And I felt nothing. No pity. No anger. Just quiet. We're taught that family is forever. That blood is the one tie you can't break. But sometimes, family isn't a bond. It's a cage. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you are the very ones poisoning you. Choosing to save yourself, choosing to finally cut that toxic tie, isn't an act of cruelty. It's an act of survival. You're not cutting off a bloodline, you're cutting off the rot so you can finally heal. I looked at Brenda. I looked at Cameron. This hollow man, who was a stranger to me. I have absolutely no obligation to help you. I said, and I closed the door. I put the for sale sign on the front lawn that afternoon. I was moving to a new city, starting my new studio, and this story, this is for you. This is for anyone who has ever felt like the outsider, the person on the fringes, the one who tries too hard for people who will never, ever appreciate them. Your value is not determined by their acceptance. Your worth is not decided by their warped reflection of you. Your new life begins the exact moment you stop asking for their permission to be happy. Be brave. Close the door.